volunteers and of other questionable activity. Friday, 2 weeks ago, there was a case of harassment against one of our personalities at Woodstock Meet by General Manager Richard Fusco. There were numerous witnesses of it. I had to ask my staff member, who was not volunteering it, to me, and she kind of let it roll off her back. However, she ended up calling Gary directly because it was Richard Fusco telling her not to do a show. And she ended up having a discussion with Gary where, after she discussed the whole thing with the owner of the license, her reaction was completely unrepeatable here as to what he is and what he's trying to do to us. Last Wednesday, there was another case of harassment at the chicken dinner, Wednesday chicken dinner that occurs in Phoenicia, where Richard Fusco bothered another of our air personality. He told them that he was coming to deliver a show to the news station, and all hell broke loose from the Fuscos. And he ended up showing up at the station visibly upset. WDST has tried to get exclusive rights to Democracy Now!, which would deprive the cable station, and because we run it, our station, that's what they're going after. They tried to contact Democracy Now!, and Democracy Now! Told them, which any basic broadcaster knows, that they are a non-commercial, educational only, that is not run on commercial stations. But nevertheless, they're trying to get everybody to jump our ship by harassment. Okay? There was an attack on our recorder at the Drumming just this last Sunday that was completely unprecedented and under attack. WDST wants to suppress, control, and have total dominion over what we say and what we do as an independent station licensed by the state of New York to do business as Woodstock 104. They want to bankrupt us and make us go away. Meanwhile, they conduct this entire war in a passive-aggressive manner, where on one side it's, we just want to have them use Woodstock. If they got what they wanted, as far as I know, there are well over 200 businesses in Woodstock, some competing with each other, that use the term of the town Woodstock in their name. If they get what we want, as far as we know, we would be the only business in town that would be legally forbidden from using Woodstock in our name. And I'm just going to say one thing. The cable channel is completely unreliable. As far as I know, we're the only people who broadcast these town board meetings reliably so that anybody in the public could get it. And we've done 90 hours a week of work on this radio station strictly as a public service. And as of now, from the town or any of the authorities in this town, we haven't gotten one bit of a statement of appreciation. And it's like a kick in the teeth. 3 minutes.
Let me amend that right now. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a question. Aren't you trying to get this settled with your attorneys at this point?
Say again?
Are you trying to get this settled with attorneys at this point?
Our attorney, they have filed this huge lawsuit against us that accuses us of everything in the book that still doesn't make any sense. They filed that last Monday in Supreme Court of upstate New York, or whatever it is, for the Federal District of Contracts. They filed this intimidating, filing. But as of now, our lawyer, who is trying to accept service from them, they won't service. They're only doing it in order to harass us.
Well, do you feel that your attorneys will try and settle this for you?
Our attorneys have an entire game plan to play out in this scenario. We have more and more attorneys coming to us wishing to represent us. We now have 4 attorneys in that category. And every time they get familiar with the case more and more, they want to represent us more and more because they know who's right and they know who's being attacking. WDST legally, this is why I say they're passive aggressive. They always say that they're just trying to talk to us, but then they create these suits, creating legal issues for us outside of the suit. And meanwhile, it only costs $400 for a filing fee, but it costs a lot more if you commit to go to trial. And they will not serve us even though our attorney has asked them to do so.
I mean, I just feel that, you know, with the attorney working on this now, hopefully something should be settled.
Yeah, my only problem with the town board is that the issue, see, before when you put it on hold, it was prudent, and because nobody really knew what the issue is, nobody could figure it out. The town board should be interested in it because as Richard Fusto's own brother said about this, and titled his op-ed, Our Good Name. This is not about anything other than the name of Woodstock being available for all of its residents who file form under the Secretary of State and the IRS 501c3 properly to be able to do business as the name of Woodstock something. They have the trademarks Radio Woodstock and Woodstock Radio. The county and the state of New York did a trademark search before they gave us the DBA of Woodstock 104. And anybody that knows anything about trademark laws knows that if you have a trademark for Radio Woodstock and Woodstock Radio, and Woodstock is the comment, that Woodstock 104 cannot be argued as owned by the owner of Radio Woodstock and Woodstock 104. Plus, from the get-go, and there are probably witnesses here who could say this tonight, many more are available. Whenever anybody has inadvertently trampled on their overly wide and overly vague and overly common trademark that has never actually been tested, that I correct them, because from the get-go our goal has always been to respect their trademark. But nothing is good enough for them except to return to the de facto monopoly that existed in this town for over 20 years before there were 2 radio licensees from the Federal Communications Commission, not just one.
Randy,
And we previously gave you the paperwork that covers all this information and lays it out right there.
No, I understand, I just am hoping that now that your attorneys are working on it, that it.
Oh, believe me, they're calling me every day.
I mean, that's where it's obviously going to be settled through them, I think, at this point.
Well, yeah, but we can't settle it as long as they are playing these illegal games in filing against us but not servicing us.
Why don't we move on to the other public we heard, and we can talk about this more.
Okay, I agree.
I have a question, hopefully it'll be a brief answer.
Uh-huh.
You alluded to harassment. What exactly, how would you describe the harassment?
She just did tonight.
Trying to get our
Exactly.
personnel to defect and interfere with our ability to gain programming both locally and nationally in the case of Democracy Now!
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Renee Prada?
Oh.
Yeah, I already mentioned it to Jeremy at the road. Some 5 or 6 months ago, I moved from Jones Quarry Road to Library Lane. And I always knew that this was a problem. But boy, I'll tell you, since I'm living on Library Lane, listen, this is an accident waiting to happen. These cars, and able-bodied people who cannot walk 20 feet from around the corner, they have to park right in front of the door. I want to say something. I've been a patient and worked at the Veterans Hospital for over 40 years. And I go to physical therapy every other week, and I see veterans, disabled, work not just for days, weeks, months, or years, so that they can walk 10 feet, that able-bodied people despise doing. And I really think that this really has to be something done about this. I mean, I already told Jeremy, I've been relegated to actually, if I want to go to the Cumbie, I'm going out Orchard Lane, completely out of the way, because, at least Library Lane is got to be the worst blind spot in town. So I just want to address that. I'm not going to elaborate. The next issue I wanted to touch on which has inspired me from the article in the Woodstock Times about 3 weeks ago. So, let me put it this way. This guy, Terry, is it Brittenstein? I don't want to mispronounce his name. Listen, I'm former junior vice commander of Chapter 126, Disabled American Veterans, okay? I don't purport to speak for every veteran in the United States. I certainly hope he doesn't. I want to tell you guys something. This whole thing about receipts, what's the problem? What is the problem? And I'm going to tell you something. Since 1995, the last 20 years, we have a Christmas party at the VA hospital. We are allotted funds, right? Guess what we have to show? You want to guess? Receipts. You know what? I'm going to tell you this. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. But I can tell you this. You're inviting suspicion. I really, and I'm actually offended as a veteran that all this, I'm not even going to get involved in all this personal stuff, please. But I will say this, that all this other crap, it's absolutely absurd. I mean, can you imagine me going to Bob Jones at the VA hospital, part of the overseer of all this, and saying, well, you know, I'm a veteran and, you know, I'm better than you and I should be exempt? I don't agree with this whatsoever. So I want it noted that I've actually taken the article, and when we hang out in the lobby of the VA hospital waiting for our prescriptions, I've shown the article. And I'm not going to repeat to you what many veterans have said to me. So, you know, anybody wants to ask me any more about this, that's fine. I know our time has become extremely more limited in the last few years, but I had to definitely come up here and express myself on this issue. And the next, I'll save the rest for next week, which I really was going to talk about. Thank you very much, board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Is there a board meeting next?
No.
No.
I mean, next meeting.
Thank you, Randy.
I think it's Chris Finley? Finley? Steve Roman.
Hi, Board. Hope everybody's doing okay. I just want to quickly bring to your attention that smart meters are regulated by the FCC by certain standards. Those standards are based on the idea that thermal heating happens when it reaches a dangerous level or has a bio effect. That is a false premise that has been proven false. I have literature for you in each one of these pamphlets on the falsehood of that. And also there's a thing on the children's bodies and brains absorb much more radiation than adults. Yet the FCC standards are only geared for a 6-pound, 6-pound man with 11-pound head. That's what every wireless device, when it's deemed safe, is based on. It's called SAM, Standard Anthropomorphic Man. And so all of these reports that I have in this folder demonstrate there's all kinds of effects below the FCC standard. Now, knowing that, that's true, and you'll see it in their peer-reviewed journals, knowing that all these wireless devices aren't safe, especially smart meters. And so we want to have the smart meter brought up, have it on the agenda on the board next month, be on the agenda to make a presentation about the smart meter. We can't do it in 2 minutes, but we want to be allowed to speak a good amount of time to present to you the reasons why we want it on the agenda and what we actually want you to do about it. We can't do that in a few minutes. So we want to do
Can you tell me what you want us to do about it?
yeah, we have some ideas, and we want to bring it up to you in the form of a presentation. And last week, we spent an hour disputing a personal dispute between Jay and Terry Donaldson, which not taking anything away from that, but we spent an hour doing that. I think the seriousness of this issue, children knowing that a child absorbs twice the radiation of an adult and 10 times the radiation in their bones as an adult, and yet all these devices are geared for a 200-pound main with an 11-pound head. That's what they say something's safe. And on top of that, the FCC regulations are way higher than any other country in the world. Germany, Italy, Russia, China, 10 microwatts per meter squared, 10 microwatts per meter squared. United States, 1,000 microwatts per centimeter squared. It's tens of thousands of times different. So we're all being overexposed. And now they want to put ERT meters on everybody's house. Even if they don't put it on your house, you still have all your neighbors with it. We want to do something about that. We want to explain to you what we think the town can help. We don't think the town can cure the problem. We think the town can help and what we would like you to do. So please put us on the agenda next town board meeting. I beg you, put us on the town board meeting so we can speak our truth.
Well, listen, if you preface it, if you can send us first, before you send us all your research and everything else, but tell us what action you want from the town board. Because then we have a proposed action. Then we can make it an agenda item. An action is being proposed.
You want us to put something together before the meeting?
Yes, just what action is.
What would we do
If
with
we
the
persuade
presentation?
you as to the blah, 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 this is what we want you to do.
Okay.
I think after watching the video, I didn't watch all of them, one was a half an hour long and a few others. There is a company that does still produce the analog meters.
Yes.
So my thought was that maybe if you wanted an action, we could write something up that would say, we want to make it known and we want the town to ask that we are allowed to purchase those type of meters from whatever resident wants it. So
Exactly.
something like that.
That's
I mean,
good.
I thought that would be a positive way of.
You want the town to purchase it or
No,
the
no.
person?
I purchased my own.
I want the town to pass some kind of resolution that would allow the people who live here to purchase an analog
I
meter
thought
if
they
they so choose, if they so choose, and that the fact is that this company does still make them,
Yes.
because some of the
55 years they've
reports,
been making them.
It would provide more muscle.
some of the reports say that there's no analog meters available, but
Exactly, it's not
according
true.
to this video and this company, there are some available.
I purchased one from them.
If you can get that, if we could write something up that would say, you know, we want the residents of Woodstock to be allowed to purchase for their homes this particular type of meter, and allow the electric company to allow us to do that, that would be something.
That's
Or
a
keep
great
the
thing.
analogs that they have.
That's true. Can I add a quick suggestion of what the action that the town board could be? I still have an original analog meter, and the reason why I do is because when Central Hudson tried to switch out ours, I showed them our generator, and I said, you can take this analog meter, but you don't have the legal right to put a digital meter on my property, and if you take the analog meter and you say that you're going to measure me through digital meter, I cancel my account. They have left me alone since. The town board should pass in, as part of its resolution, pardon me, that citizens have the right, if they are fearful of these meters, either fire hazard or health hazard, which I am. I live in a wooden house. And that residents are allowed, if forced to run an appropriate size generator full-time in order to be able to accomplish the goal of not having Central Hudson force one of these poisonous meters on them. So the town board should simply, for that reason, not that everybody wants to run their own generator all the time, but if Central Hudson forces
No,
you
Neither do the
you want to
neighbors.
breathe, you want to breathe that stuff.
we run our propane generator all the time.
Yeah, that's pretty stinky.
Thanks for letting me speak.
Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Chris, did you want to speak?
Please, yeah. I'm
Come on
sorry.
up for 3 minutes.
I'm sensitive to the Wi-Fi, so I thought I'd take a break. I didn't think that you were so quick. But I've come here tonight to discuss health as without it, we wouldn't hear discussing anything. In 2011, the World Health Organization declared microwave radiation. This is the same radiation emitted from Wi-Fi devices, cell towers, and ERT Central Hudson Fortis utility meters. They declared it a Class 2B carcinogen. That's a possible cause of cancer. I'm sure you all know that by now. And I just wanted to throw a little good news on the agenda by talking about in January the 29th, 2015, the French National Assembly made history by passing a new national law to reduce exposure to wireless radiation electromagnetic fields. This is the law that was passed. Wi-Fi is banned in all nursery schools. Wi-Fi and wireless devices will be banned in the spaces dedicated to home, to rest and activities of children under 3. 2. Wi-Fi is minimised in schools. In schools for children up to 11 years of age, Wi-Fi routers should be turned off when not used for pedagogic purposes, whatever that is.
Pedagogy,
Teaching. 3. Schools will be informed. The board of the school should be informed when new tech equipment is being installed in schools. Wi-Fi hotspots will be labelled. Places where Wi-Fi is provided should be clearly marked with a pictogram. Children must be provided protection. At the request of the buyer, equipment reducing cell phone radiation exposures to the head for children less than 14 years should be provided. The public will be informed. Within a year, policy of information and awareness of information on responsible and reasonable use of cell phones and other apparatus emitting radio frequencies will be set up. And the last one is electro-hypersensitivity report to be submitted. Within a year, a report on electro-hypersensitivity must be given to Parliament. Now, meanwhile, you know, after France passed a law banning this in schools, my 14-year-old is in Onteora Middle School District, where they just purchased 500 iPads for use at their school. These iPads are Wi-Fi only devices. The children continue to be exposed to a known carcinogen. My 7-year-old daughter goes to the elementary school here in Woodstock. She continues to be exposed without warning or any type of notice to parents or children to high levels of microwave radiation every day. The amounts known and accepted by scientists, the government of France, the World Health Organization and several other European countries as a possible cause of cancer. She's been exposed to it every day in school. And meanwhile, Central Hudson Fortis continue to churn out ERT utility meters to our homes here in Woodstock and surrounding area. These digital utility meters emit the same type of radiation as cell towers and Wi-Fi devices. And is that it?
In conclusion.
Okay. In conclusion, okay, I'll get to the point. Last week, the ambulance was called to my home. I live in an estate here in Woodstock where we all have ERT devices. My wife is a 44-year-old mother of 3 children, very healthy, German-American woman, strong as an ox. We had to call the ambulance. They came out, they checked her. She was in terrible pain. She was in a heap on the floor. I wouldn't have brought this up, only for one thing. My friend in Woodstock, I was at a potluck with her. She was on her knees as well with a pain in her chest, and she's got an ERT meter on her home. Very healthy woman, about the same age. And last but not least, I get these terrible pains in my neck, these terrible charley horses, and I'm a rugby player. I played for a year. I'm very physically fit, and these ERT meters are deadly. So that's basically, and the reason I'm here is to support an ordinance. Please let us come and speak for now. An ordinance that would ban microwave radiation, Wi-Fi in our children's schools, and ban these ERT meters.
We won't be able to help you there.
Okay, that's fine.
Why?
No, it's just because they're regulated in the state of New York. They're not regulated by us. Now, for instance, to give you an example of what I'm talking about, we know that cigarettes kill people.
Right.
We cannot ban the sale of cigarettes in the town of Woodstock. That's all governed by the FDA and the this and the that and everything else. So there is a known carcinogen, something that we know is killing people, and we can't. We can pass all the laws in the world. And
I know.
not be
I'm aware
It's
of
the
that.
same
Jerry.
thing with this, with the electromagnetism.
No.
the state, whether they've set good standards or bad standards, but they've set standards. And as long as people are falling within those standards, they're legal. And we can't ban them. We
Can you
can't
speak
stop
to-
them. We can't prevent them.
Can you speak to people in the schools, principals? Can you speak to Central Hudson? All we want is an analog meter on home, that's all.
Well, I think that the entity that really should be spoken to in this particular instance is the Public Service Commission. Because in
We've
the state of
spoken-
New
we've
York,
spoken.
They are all.
They're full of lawyers,
Can you
judges.
support us?
They're full of lawyers, judges and attorneys, the Public Service Commission. They won't do nothing. They are basically bought and sold by the utility companies. And they won't move on this.
Why did we pass a resolution to ban them if you're saying that there's nothing you can do? Why did we move forward?
Well, that was really just a demonstration of
Oh,
utility
okay.
companies.
Yeah, we don't
Because
have
we
the
can
power.
we can do all the resolutions and laws in the world. They will not be
It wasn't.
I know that I said at the time that the resolution would not do anything. I supported it, it won't.
But
It's toothless.
can't the town board pass a resolution regarding its own zoning laws to allow people more leverage against Central Hudson by saying we can just turn on a generator rather than have a smart meter?
Well, we don't stop you from turning on the generator. As long as you're within the noise ordinance, you're not sending fumes into your neighbor's window, there's nothing that prevents you from running a generator.
Full-time?
There's no law against running it full-time. Again, as long as you're within the law, the noise ordinance, as long as you're not causing a disturbance to your neighbors.
There was nothing,
We have heat, glare, and fumes that are regulated.
there was nothing the Ulster County Legislature could do neither. But they did sit down and spoke with Central Hudson. And we did get an opt-out out of them talking.
Mhm.
But the problem is I live in a 4-apartment dwelling. So if I opt out, I'm still going to have radiation from the 3 other meters from my neighbours.
Mhm.
And if I opt out, they're going to put a digital meter on my home, which sends a lot of dirty electricity into my house. And Central Hudson, John Marsham, has point blankly lied to us and told us there are no analog meters available.
Mhm.
And in California at the moment, the opt-out includes an analog meter.
Mhm.
And there's a lot more people in California than there is in Woodstock or Ulster County. And they're all getting analog meters back.
Mhm.
Why can we not get analog meters back on our homes? You know, this is terrible.
That's a question.
This is
that's
toxic.
certainly
This is
pursued.
toxic trespass.
Even
You know,
if
I pay
the
my
ordinance, even if the ordinance doesn't do anything, it brings attention to the matter at a whole nother level.
Mm.
People pay
I know, but
attention.
it's such a cynical, it's too cynical. You're adopting a law that is saying that if you don't follow this law, you are going to be punished, either by fine or by jail. And then we're going to adopt this knowing that it wouldn't stand the first test in court. It's too
There's
cynical.
got to be another way.
There should be an organized defense of the Fourth Amendment that these meters violate, because in fact, this is national policy, and the reason why the State Public Utilities Commission and all the other commissions up to the FCC are actually pushing this is because this is all a part of this surveillance state. Every new appliance that's sold now has to have a Wi-Fi chip in it for the specific purpose of communicating with these infernal Fourth Amendment violating meters so that they can not only track when you open your refrigerator door or when you turn on and off any appliance, including your television, but it also gives someone out of your control to be able to say that because of some alleged power or grid problem, we have the right to turn off your refrigerator, make all your food spoil, or to reduce the voltage to your computer and cause you to lose all your data. And all of this is a matter so that they can track you and give you what is called time of day, time of use metering. And this is so that they can track, and once the information that these meters gather is given out, they are marketable data, just like everybody else markets your personal data. And the opt-out from the stuff that could be collected by other people's meters does not give you any opt-out to your personal information being sold by people who you don't know.
All right,
That's the
Randy,
real problem.
Let me interrupt. It's 7:30.
I'm done.
Public hearing.
I'm done.
And I think, was there anybody else who was
No,
that?
that was it.
Thank you for this.
Thank you.
If I could just-
Where is it that you live?
Pardon?
Where do you live?
I'd rather not say, you know, this is
Oh,
not,
okay.
this is not
You mentioned
where,
apartment.
this is where I live, this is about, there's about 57 apartments there, and we all have ERT meters. It's not between us and our landlords, it's really between us and Central Hudson. So,
The landlords are being
Ken,
forced.
would you like to say something?
Yeah, it's, you know, just as this issue has bubbled up again, I kind of went back through the record and maybe I could take the town board through a sort of trip down memory lane from about 2 years ago of things that we've done, what we seem to have accomplished, and maybe what we haven't accomplished. But I just have a few minutes to do that. I mean, it was like about 2 years ago, May 24th, 2013, both Raj and Steve came in and gave us a story about how Central Hudson rudely disconnected their electric service. And that's up until that time, I don't think, at least for myself or anyone else on this board, has ever given a second thought to electric meters. I mean, the only time I thought about it was when the lawnmower hit the ground you brought it. But you raised the issue of the smart meters, you raised the issue about the dangers of EMR, and this was all new news to us, absolutely new news to us. And we did pass a resolution which essentially said the town board bans the use of so-called smart meters in the town of Woodstock that evening. And the supervisor asked myself and David Gross to, why don't you look into this and see what these smart meters are, you know? So we did. And on June 13th, I submitted a report to the town board. I asked, you know, we went to Central Hudson, are you installing smart meters? You all went to Central Hudson. And they said, no, we're not installing smart meters, we're installing ERT meters. And there is a difference. But in that report, we made 3 recommendations. One is that, you know, Central Hudson, under the law, is supposed to inform the residents that they're making these major changes. They didn't do that. Second recommendation was to have a public information program. And the third was to support and lobby for an opt-out option, so people didn't want the electromagnetic meters could get an alternative. You know, within a week after we made this report, Central Hudson put a website up explaining the ERT meter. On public information, I think Woodstock has been terrific on that, between Steve and the smart meter group. I mean, for a year, I wrote letters about this stuff. There's been public hearings, letters to the paper. The newspaper has issued articles, you know, has written about articles about this whole situation. And probably accumulate, you know, ending our, you know, really the peak event was the November 21st meeting you had at the school, at the Woodstock Elementary School with Dr. David Carpenter and several others coming in. So I think any town in the country, Woodstock probably can claim we were probably the best educated on this issue over anyone. On June 18th, you know, a few days, essentially the week after we submitted that report, the town board passed another resolution, essentially supporting some state laws which were being proposed. 2 bills in the, a bill in the Assembly and a bill in the state and the Senate, which really was supporting the opt-out option. And on December 17th, again, to allow the work done by Raj and Steve, the Ulster County Legislature passed a resolution. Again, their resolution was emphasized on opt-out, an opt-out option. So at this point, you know, of those 3 recommendations, Central Hudson has given us an opt-out, Central Hudson has given us the information about ERT, and we've done the full education program. So over a 2-year period, you know, we've had a pretty good track record of getting things done that we thought should be done. And, you know, this is a whole new, now we have an opt-out option. It's a digital meter. There's these issues of dirty electricity and things like that, which we don't understand at this point because we're just getting into this issue of dirty electricity. But I think from EMR and all these reports that we've had from the World Health Organization and all the other groups, I think we're pretty much up to speed on that stuff, and I think we know where that is. So I just wanted to say, you know, this town board has taken action with your support, and we've gotten things done, and, you know, I think maybe there's more to do and take a look at this, but up to this point, I think we've had a pretty good look.
Thank you, Ken.
can I say one thing, Ken? I'm being asked to pay $50 to get the meter removed from my home in order to get a digital meter, and $7 a month. You know, this is extortion, and I'll tell you why. They're asking me to pay for something that is harming my health, and they're also asking me to pay for something I don't want. If someone delivered a New York Times to your house every day for a month, and he said he charged you $30, and he said, but I would charge you $60 if you don't want the New York Times, how would you feel?
Well, I think this has to be an individual decision. I mean, if your wife's getting sick and you have the ambulance coming, and it's because of the ERT meeting, $6 a month is not a big charge. I mean, you gotta make that decision.
It's a terrible charge because it's extortion.
But that's up to you to decide. Central Hudson is giving you
What do
this
you
option,
think?
and you decide whether you're gonna take it or not.
Look,
And that's what we said. We said, people ought to have the choice.
it's wrong.
It would be,
might be wrong,
it would be
but I told you what
swapped
you
out
have
with
to
an
do.
analog meter, not the
That's right,
meters
that's
they're
what we
giving us.
need.
That's the point.
That's what we need is knocked out.
Whether you pay or not, people would gladly pay if they could keep their analog. They're replacing the meters with meters that are still not safe. It's not what we want.
And you know what they're telling people? You
Wait,
want to get solar
Wait. First of all, the only person I know who's actually signed up for this option has an analog meter, and Central Hudson will, you can keep it for at least another year.
Oh, goody.
And also, we need some information about the analog meter. On the digital meters, you gave us all these catalogs and this information. On the smart meters, I get this stuff from General Electric and from Itron. I have a notebook full of it. I have nothing on your analog meter. I have nothing about the testing of analog meters to show that they're safe. I have nothing about the UL on the analog. So I think, we need that information to make a decision.
They are UL approved and they are ANSI approved.
Well, send us the
I will. I
documentation.
just want to ask you, see how all this is developing? That's why we need to be on the agenda next town board meeting.
Well, I'd like to have some, if you're going to
I'll send it to you.
advocate for a specific brand of that analog
I'll
meter,
send it to you, Ken.
give us the
I'll even
information.
lend you the analog I have. I have an
No, I
analog brand new.
I don't need the meter. I have an analog.
Yeah, you
meter.
can put it
I
in
don't
yourself.
need one.
I'll put it in for you.
I already have an analog meter. I don't need it. At least I think I do last time I looked.
Right, well, you better look to make sure that they haven't taken it away, because they do.
Well, I personally, I don't have any problem with it.
Can I
But,
say,
I'm not electrosensitive.
can I say one
You
last
get the
thing?
last word.
Okay, thank you. This is very important because this is one of the reasons, the second reason I'm here. I read during the week, and it's there for anybody to read, in Highland in 2013 and in Hyde in the same year, 2013, 7 children were diagnosed from the same area with cancer. And it was the same type of cancer, leukemia, childhood leukemia. They have not, there's been, as I said, you can go online and find this out. Children from 3.5 years of age to 7 years of age diagnosed with childhood leukemia from the same area in Hyde and Highland. Now, I'm not at liberty to say, but there's a school here very close by, and they've just discovered a cancer cluster. For the
Well, that
same thing,
issue
children.
was-
Okay, let me finish, please.
Well,
Let me finish, please. They've discovered that it is not because of the water, it is not because of the fracking, there's no fracking in that area, it is not because of the pesticides. They've been growing apples with the same pesticides for years. And I don't want to wait until my daughter catches, or develops childhood leukemia. And even if she does, these companies will deny it. People will deny it still, but I don't want to wait for that to happen. Why not lead? Why not take the lead? This is supposed to be a very forward-thinking town. Why not take the lead from France and ban this in our schools, or at least open it to debate? Please take us seriously.
well, it is open for debate, and we're having a debate, and the smart meter people sponsored this November
sorry,
21st, 2014 seminar with Dr. Michael Brawley, who's an expert on leukemia. And, he didn't support what you just said.
He doesn't.
Right.
Yes, I know, because I know
Okay,
exactly
what,
why
we
this is
we gotta move on. We
Yeah.
gotta do our public hearing.
I need the words to say about this. Other board members have very brief. 2 things. This business about the meters and radiation and all of that is part of a national problem that I would call the normalization of abuse. And the other thing I want to say is that I was at Hurley Ridge Market earlier, and I see that they're selling Roundup.
Oh, yeah.
And I took the time to make a personal comment to a manager who was there, who really put me off. He said, well, I don't know anything about it. And I wrote a note and so forth. But I think it's appropriate. Some of the other stores in Kingston are starting to cut out the sale of Roundup.
Right.
And I think it's appropriate
It's true.
for all of us to say, we don't want that kind of poison around here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to read the announcement?
At a meeting of the Town Board held on April 14, 2015, the following resolution was adopted. Resolved to schedule a public hearing on April 21st at 7:30 p.m. at the town offices for the purpose of taking public comment pursuant to Article 4, Section 64-10-B of the New York State Town Law, and the town's intention to close Maple Lane on each Wednesday from the hours of 2 p.m. to dusk. These weekly closures to begin May 20th and end October 21st, 2015, by order of the Town Board, Jackie Early, Town Clerk.
It says after October.
I'm sorry?
It says after October.
And then, I can't help your resolution that you guys passed. That's what it says. I think it's an end on, or after. No, that's
Yeah,
the
it's
last
after.
day. It would be after, that's correct.
21's last.
Yeah.
So all the conditions remain the same?
Yes, we had a meeting with them, and everything, the police chief weighed in, the building inspector weighed in, the custodial department weighed in, highway weighed in, David Bloodgood, our NYMER representative, likes how we've handled the farmer's market and the crossing of the street and the vests and.
And everything's improved as what you were expecting about it? As
Yeah.
far as safety and...
Yeah.
Got any of those Roundup fertilized tomatoes on sale this year?
Darn that, Belle, how come you can get it to work? There you go.
Why do we put up with that?
GMO dinner is ready.
Because he puts up with us.
That's not good enough.
Is there any comment from the public?
No one?
In that case, I will move to close the public hearing. And be it resolved to authorize the supervisor to sign the mass gathering permits permitting the farmer's market and the closing of Maple Lane, beginning May 20 and ending after October 21st, 2015.
Excellent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, be it resolved to accept minutes from meetings held on February 17, March 10, March 17th, and April 14th.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Be resolved to accept the town clerk's report.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Be it resolved to authorize transfers per the transfer sheet.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
By the way, I don't know how many of you are informed of this, but we did get our Standard & Poor's rating. We are a double capital A minus, which is in the top tier. It's almost equivalent to the Moody's rating that we had, in the sense that that was an A3, I believe, and that was also in the top tier. So we got a very good bonding rating. The bond sold for around a 2% interest rate. We'll be saving on average about $17,000 a year in interest for the next 10 years.
That's a highway bond.
That's a highway bond, yeah.
That was the rebonding.
That
Right.
was the rebonding, yes.
Nice.
And I just mention it because in the due diligence conference I had with Standard & Poor, they were very curious to know certain things, like how promptly is the town board informed of the financial conditions of the town, that is, those monthly reports that you get, and the transfer sheets, and et cetera, and they were quite impressed with how we conducted our business here, so just to let you know.
Well, I have to say, when I look at the minute book, since you took over in 2000, those monthly reports have been monthly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They weren't before that.
No.
They were
They
very
were like once
scattered.
every 9 months, right? When somebody thought about it, right,
Yeah, I know.
yeah. Be it resolved to authorize payment of audited vouchers in the amount of $753,885.27.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved to accept the resignation of Claire Castro, recreational aide, effective April 26, 2015, and be it further resolved to thank Ms. Castro for her service to the town. All in favor?
Aye.
And she did a wonderful job
She
over
was
there.
good.
She was off on the adventure of motherhood. And
Oh, is she?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good for
mhm.
her.
I really wish her well.
Good for her.
Be it resolved to accept the resignation of Emmett Vedder III as part-time police officer for the town of Woodstock effective April 20, 2015. Be it further resolved to thank Officer Vedder for his service to the town. Unfortunately, I left my little valise in my car, which is now parked at Nissan, or servicing. But he had a very, very gracious letter from Mr. Vedder. He was very grateful to the town, very grateful to Chief Clayton Keefe for the opportunity to be employed here. He is, of course, employed full-time in another police department, but it was a very gracious letter, as was Ms. Castro, I should say.
They were in the purple file.
Oh, they were, okay, good, okay.
And it was a very, very nice letter.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the New York Rural Water Association's federally funded source water protection program provides technical assistance at no charge to rural and small communities with the development and implementation of local source water protection plans designed to prevent the deterioration of water resources used for drinking water, and whereas the town seeks to further develop its water resources planning and management strategies in order to protect drinking water resources for the town of Woodstock residents, and whereas the Aquifer Subcommittee chaired by Councilman Joe Wentz has met with Stephen Winley, New York Rural Water Association's source water protection specialist, and determined that he has the expertise required to guide the town through the technical aspects of finalizing the text and aquifer map for the aquifer protection overlay district, as well as with the creation of a town-wide study of water resources meant to reduce stress to drinking water resources, including planning for the future and planning for water supply emergency events. And as Mr. Winkley has indicated interest in working with the town of Woodstock and will be available to do so, and expects he can complete a groundwater and source water study within 1 year, including identifying additional aquifer resources in the town, as well as to help prepare the aquifer map and associated text with the aquifer protection overlay district to protect the aquifer that provides Woodstock water for the Woodstock municipal water system. Therefore, be it resolved. The town of Woodstock shall participate in the municipal New York State Rural Water Association's water source and groundwater study, and accept the assistance of Mr. Stephen Winkley in the matters here before mentioned, and be further resolved as resolution shall take effect immediately.
Second for purpose of discussion. Is there any price tag associated with it?
No. No. Steve, as you may recall, did this as a very similar service for us some years ago.
It says up near the top, there's no charge.
Good job.
Yes, federally funded, no charges.
Yeah.
Good job.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Be resolved to authorize the supervisor to sign change work orders GO17, credit for $500, GO18, credit $592, GO19, credit $450, GO20, credit $12,395, GO21, extra $920, GO22, extra $2,231, EO02, extra $8,752, and SP001, credit $3,755. And be further resolved that as a result of the above change work orders, the contract sums are as follows: construction, $955,082.21, electrical, $270,062, plumbing, $299,177, HVAC, $299,177, and fire sprinkler, $55,045.
Second. There is a mistake in there, because the plumbing and the HVAC are the exact same, right?
What is
They
it?
are exact same. I must have transcribed them.
Which one, what's that?
Plumbing and HVAC. is the same.
Okay, we'll amend it for our next meeting. Sorry about that.
That's second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I have one, Be it resolved to authorize the supervisor to sign a mass gathering permit issued to KTD for a gathering at Andy Field on April 22 for the approximate hours of 12 noon to 5 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
So the 17th Carmichael is coming to town, and at 2 o'clock he's offering a teaching to the peoples of the town of Woodstock. So if you're doing anything better tomorrow. 2
Tomorrow,
o'clock,
too.
you can come to the Andy Field and meet with the 17th Carmichael.
Supposed to be
The
about
town board is all invited.
half an hour to 45 minutes.
Yeah. That's all our business.
And I'd just like to say, thanks to Jeremy's hard work, we are now getting that free report about the PPA agreement. So we should have that sometime next week.
Actually, I got it today, and he's going to have a conversation with us next week,
Okay.
but I did get it today.
Okay, great. So I'm very happy about that because I wanted to make sure, we all wanted to make sure that we had that information before we signed something with the solar company.
Yeah. Just a few comments about the contract. I had inserted the image in Exhibit A, but the file I sent out to my colleagues was about 20 megs, and maybe your email system coughed it up or didn't.
I got it.
You may have,
What
but
is
I
it?
also finally submitted a smaller version.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But that's what it looks like. It's just, I think it's just what you're referring to,
Is this the solar array?
the solar
Yes.
on the contract.
Yeah.
I mean, I just took,
Uh-huh.
What's the second, what's the first and the second line, Ken?
this is the actual area for the array.
And
And
then
the
that's
second
what's
line,
going to
what
be
they're
clear.
proposing is a shading
A
area,
shading analysis.
which I think, they say it's based on, this can change based on future analysis, and I don't think it's going to be close.
Mhm.
I think the 7 acres is probably more accurate.
Mhm.
I think we've got to be ready to take that,
Mhm.
buy into that.
So that, and there's Route 212 there, so it's pretty close out to the road.
Well, it can't, they have the regular, the Central Hudson power line here, so they have to stay outside of that easement.
So, do they, so it runs right along the easement roughly?
And roughly, well, I expect that's what it does.
Right. It's on the other side of that line. It's on the other side of the electric line.
Yeah, right.
Two
that's
twelve.
right. And on section
Is this a
1512,
copy from me or?
well, I just wrote it once.
I got it.
I want it.
On this 1512, there's language in there that says the award of $0.45 per kilowatt hour. That is per watt, not per
Watt.
kilowatt.
Okay.
No, and I have no idea if this is even a valid section in well, it's still a valid section, but
Mhm.
the whole incentive program is up in turmoil.
Right.
And so
Yes.
how this is all gonna
Now, I
sort out.
heard that say they think in early May they might have this thing sorted out.
Well, they have to wait for the, like Friday, they announced, the PSC announced its decision.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another conference call on the 22nd to explain to the vendors what they have to do next.
Uh-huh.
So they want to move ahead with this pretty quickly.
Right,
But, people got to make some decisions.
right.
And, everyone was trying to be grandfathered under the old laws. But the PSC made it so if you want to be grandfathered, it's going to cost you.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's the.
These are the ones who had those contracts with the so-called light bulb.
Yeah, it was a standalone one, which was what we proposed in our RFP, which I didn't understand until I heard about this uneconomic arbitrage. And I said, well, what's that? And calculated it, that it was, it's a really a terrific deal. It was about a 25% premium over what we were expecting. But the PSC didn't think that was a good idea anymore. And they outlawed it in December. And then there was a hue and cry from the solar vendors. And so they, a week or so ago, they issued these new incentives, which if you want to do the standalone meter, you're not going to get as good incentive as you were originally expecting.
So Watt's on first?
Yep.
Yeah, lots on first.
Ah.
So I'll just pass that over to Jeremy and again.
What?
It's just a typographical error,
Thank you.
and it's hard to really keep track what's different between watt and megawatt hours
Kilowatt
and
and
things like that. And I can
Naomi
understand.
Watt.
Oh, well, I think you could figure her out.
Also like to say about their proposed resolution for the smart meters and the analog meters, I think we ought to limit the discussion to how we get analog meters and not go through hours of radiation.
Yeah,
treatment.
let's-
I'll
let's-
second
yes.
Because I think, we've had 2 years.
So
of
yes,
this.
insist that they send you that information.
Yes.
Yes. That would be
We've had 2 years of the dangers of electromagnetic
Yes,
radiation
right.
and whatever. And I don't think we need that shit anymore.
Yes.
So, and Steve said that he would send you some ideas about where they're thinking we would go before we put this on the agenda.
That's what he said.
So Ken, you're thinking that the smart meters or the other meters might be better than the analog?
Well, I don't
Health-wise?
know.
That's what I'm
The
saying,
digital
I mean,
meters.
yeah, digital, yeah.
Don't know that. I mean, we know the digital meter, the opt-out option, has no electromagnetic radiation. So people who are electrosensitive
Should get the
can
digital.
sign up for this, and it should solve their problem.
Except that they're claiming it causes dirty electricity.
Well-
Then
Yeah.
I'm-
Yeah, it's a switching power supply
It
that
has a switching power supply, but except for a light bulb, anything you plug in has a switching power supply. Your TVs, your radios, your CD players,
Clocks.
whatever. So, I mean, whether this digital meter actually imposes more
Danger.
dirty electricity than all the other devices you have plugged in your house, that's an open question. And whether the analog meters actually generate more EMR fields than the digital meters is an open question.
They're neutral.
I mean,
I've tested ours for RF, our analog meter. It produces no appreciable.
It's an electrical device, everything that's electrical produces electrical radiation, EMR radiation.
It's the degree of.
So, those are just open questions that, if we're gonna, I think we got to the point where we got our top out, and for 2 years we worked on it. And now we have another set of issues to look at, and we need to look at dirty electricity, we need to look at the
So you get the
availability of
whole
analog
picture.
radiation. But these are all new questions,
Right,
but we don't need to hear about
the other stuff.
Right,
we're
yeah,
not-
all right.
I agree, we all, we all have our feelings about that, either you believe it or you don't, because there's not a lot of scientific evidence, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, so.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think
I believe it, but that doesn't mean that it's true or not true.
people come in and complain that they're sensitive to electromagnetic radiation. I mean, I have no reason to doubt that. Anymore, the someone came in and said they have an allergy to pollen or something.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean,
I agree.
and they asked for an answer how to get rid of the EMR radiation, and the opt-out is an alternative.
Right.
And now, this brings up a new set of problems, a new set of issues, and we gotta take a look at them.
Well, Ken, if you would look into that, think of the analogs and stuff.
Yeah, I'll-
Thank you.
You know.
That's really,
Thank God
and
somebody
thank you
wants
for
to
that
get that
report
stuff.
you just gave us.
Well,
The progress that we've made on this stuff.
2 years before May 23rd, the amount of time I spent thinking about electric heaters was like 0. And I was out in California. Actually, where, the smart meters are actually quite common. And I can just report that it's very difficult to start a conversation about people's electric meters and how they're using them.
Mhm.
But, just give a couple examples. There's one friend of, and, my friends understand me, so they give me some slack on this stuff. One friend who's not technically competent, but does email and can do the communication with her grandchildren over the Apple stuff and has all sorts of televisions and DVDs. I asked her about her smart meters. I don't know what smart meters. Well, I can control your air conditioning. So, oh yeah, I got these phone calls from the utility company. I have no idea what's about. I never return them. Another friend who has what's called a Nest thermostat. Meaning from his iPhone, he can control the
Yes.
the temperatures in his
Oh,
house,
yeah.
Right.
turn lights on and off.
Right, the refrigerator can be,
And his swimming pool is a recirculating motors attached to the internet, and he has a thermal solar panel, so he can pump his pool water through the solar panel. And he's a software manager in a company.
It's like Larry with our water pumps.
Yeah, something like that. And so here's a guy I think would know. I said, well, how do you use your smart meter? He says, well, I don't think I have a smart. I think it's just a digital meter. Now, he lives in Carlsbad, California, just north of San Diego. And San Diego Gas and Electric is one of the major users of smart meters. So I asked him to send me an image of his meter, with all so I could read it. Well, it's the Itron Centronics OpenWay meter. You go to the Itron site, and this is the full Monty of smart meters. I mean, it does everything. And so I go to the San Diego Gas Electric website, said, how can, how do customers use this? Just sign in with your account number, it gives you time of day pricing, it gives you, it's gonna do, if you have the right appliances, it'll control your appliances and your air conditioning. I mean, now this is a technically astute guy, who had no idea that this capability was in the smart meter, and he had access to it through San Diego.
What's he doing with it now?
I don't know, I just sent him off the, might want to take a look at this, tell me what you think.
What hope is for the rest of us?
Huh?
If he can't figure it out, what hope is?
Well, the whole, this rev process, the reason they keep pushing people, they're pushing the smart meters very hard because they want people to be able to manage their electricity, and no one's going to manage their electricity like that.
It
So
also
they want
had
to be able
something
to
to
charge
do
more.
with the ability for the utility to just sort of, like, if they feel that they're headed toward an overload, a brownout,
Yeah.
that they can control them,
Brown out.
that they can lessen the juice going here without necessarily making all the lights go out completely.
Well, first of all, there's like 50 million of these smart meters installed,
Mhm.
and you can't find really any examples of people, of the utilities doing this, except for two. And this is in Texas and California, where the utilities can control your air conditioning.
Mhm.
They can turn it down when the power starts peaking, and your swimming pool recirculating motor.
Mhm.
I don't know, but in this area, air conditioning is not that big a deal like it is in Texas,
Yeah.
and certainly you don't have the swimming pools like they have in California.
Electric heating is when our pipes burst, and the electric heaters that you might buy in an emergency all come with this Wi-Fi control too. And they could cause damage, further damage to your house or whatever by remotely controlling your electric heater after your pipes have burst, which is a situation which happened with us just this year.
But I think the best argument against smart meters is the economic argument. They really don't pay off.
Can I just give you one piece of background since you're researching this? And Central Hudson's opt-out meter is in fact the same thing as a tower you would buy for a computer where you plug in chips and circuit boards, sound cards, video cards, whatever. The meter that they give you as an opt-out meter is exactly the same as a digital two-way meter that can actually do the two-way you're talking about. The only difference is that it's a platform. So the chips and the controlling circuits that do those extra functions can be installed at a later date in any of these opt-out meters, and the scary thing about that is, if anything ever changes with that opt-out, they can come along, take off that roundish face from that meter, slap in a couple of chips, and you do have a two-way HR.
Well, I can
You're
say it's
young fellow.
true, because, Steve and Raj sent us the catalogs when we started looking at this, and we looked at GE, there's 4 families, and there's a long list of options under each. But you don't make those modifications in the field. I mean, you buy it with the options. It's sort of like buying a car, it has a 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder engine. Well, you don't go
But
back to
they
the field and
can't,
change the engine.
Central Hudson
The advantage
can't.
was you could Google chicken at the same time.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Well, before we adjourn, I just want to thank Randy and Felicia.
Thank you.
Sincerely thank
Thank
you
you.
for performing a public service for us, and we are grateful. And I feel terrible that we hadn't already expressed this gratitude to you, but I mean it. Thank you.
I think we kind of did when they first started. I think that there was a thank you for doing this when they first started this
Well,
radio
thank you for
station.
continuing.
But isn't that sucking up?
Well, thank you, it's a rocky road. And I wish it was right straight.
Do you feel the squeeze, or you feel the squeeze?
Oh, I feel the squeeze.
Say again?
So,